Hey up guys, so today's movie that I'm going to be talking about is Da 5 Bloods, which just landed on Netflix and is the new joint from director Spike Lee. Now, as I'm sure you guys are very much aware, we are currently in the midst of a global outcry for the Black Lives Matter movement. All around the world we've seen people coming together to put a stop to systemic racism and fight for equality in the wake of the murder of George Floyd and countless other black people. Normally I wouldn't bring up current events while discussing a film review because it doesn't feel necessary. However, Spike Lee has always been an outspoken and political auteur. His films have always reflected the African American experiences, from Do the Right Thing to Blackkklansman. There's always been some prescient issues in his films which have just repeated throughout history. And he's been so vocal about his disdain for Donald Trump, as well as his support for the Black Lives Matter movement. So it does feel necessary to mention the timing of this release being right in the middle of this Black Lives Matter movement research. And for that, it almost makes the film feel even more timely, even more relevant, and really more important, and a must-see film for all of us right now to educate ourselves and also to be more informed on the situation, because this film really does speak to what's going on in the world right now. Da 5 Bloods is an urgent and important film about race, brotherhood, reparations, and black anguish. It's a film which entertains as well as enlightens, which blends multiple genres and styles together. It's a history lesson, a black comedy, a treasure hunt adventure, an action movie, and a war epic. The story is set in modern times and tells the story of 4 African-American ex-GIs who are all on the cusp of retirement now. They reunite in Vietnam in hopes of finding the remains of their fallen brother, or blood as they refer to each other as, Stormin Norman, played in this film by Chadwick Boseman, as well as also finding a trunk of gold bullion that they had buried somewhere in the Vietnam jungles during the war. There's Otis, played by Clarke Peters, Paul, played by Delroy Lindo, Melvin, played by Isaih Whitlock Jr, and Eddie, played by Norm Lewis. Paul's son David, played by Jonathan Majors, also tags along with his dad and the squad as they head off into the jungle, where they face off with some Vietnamese locals who want the gold for themselves, as well as their own demons from their past. What's interesting is the script was originally penned by Danny Bilson and Paul DeMeo and was intended to be about 4 white soldiers looking for the gold in the Vietnamese jungle. However, when the project landed in Spike Lee's lap, he and Blackkklansman co-writer Kevin Willmot retweaked the stories so they made it about 4 black soldiers and also highlighted the racial injustice of the war. One of the topics that Da 5 Bloods addresses is the underrepresentation of black soldiers when it comes to the Vietnam War. At the time of the war, black Americans made up 11% of the population, but they also made up 32% of the army recruits, which is quite disproportionate when you think about it. And yet when the war ended, black soldiers were barely acknowledged. Much like he did in Blackkklansman by featuring clips from Gone with the Wind and The Birth of a Nation to prove a point, Spike Lee again calls out Hollywood, or Hollyweird as one of his characters refers to it as, for the lack of black representation when it comes to movies set around the Vietnam War. There's plenty of fictionalized Rambo movies, but where are the movies about real-life heroes like Milton L. Olive III, the first African-American man to receive the Medal of Honor in Vietnam, and he was only 18 at the time? Where's his film? Why has his story not been told? Having said all that, you can see the influences of other films in Da 5 Bloods, like The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, as well as Apocalypse Now. In fact, Spike Lee goes as far as using the Rise of the Valkyries music from Apocalypse Now when the squadron head off into the jungle to find their treasure. Spike Lee uses a whole arsenal of film techniques. He uses archived docu-footage, as well as like home video style footage, as well as flashbacks shot in grainy 4:3 aspect ratio to really give that feeling that we've been transported to the past. In less skilled hands, this abundance of techniques could have been viewed as over-embellishment, but in Lee's hands, this is a filmmaker working at the height of their prowess. I also like that Spike Lee chose to have his old 4 GIs play the younger versions of themselves in the flashbacks, only without the de-aging software. They're their current selves reliving their past. And Stormin Norman remains the same age as he was when he was killed in action, because that's their memory of him. When it comes to acting, everybody turns in a great performance, but the one name that will be on everybody's lips is Delroy Lindo, who plays the Trump-supporting, PTSD-suffering Paul. It's a real bulldozer of a performance from Lindo. At one point I was getting a Colonel Kurtz vibe from Apocalypse Now when Paul ventures off on his own journey and into his own heart of darkness. Definitely the standout performance of this film, and if there is an award season, right now it's not certain if we're going to have an Oscars next year or the year after, but regardless, he should be in the conversation for all the awards. As for negatives, I do wish that we got a little bit more from the characters Eddie and Melvin. This is an ensemble film, but comparatively to Otis and Paul, they don't have as much to do. They feel a little bit sidelined, and because of this, dramatic events that occur later in the film don't carry as much emotional weight as they should. There's also a few conveniences in the plot, like how they discover the gold is a stroke of pure dumb luck. There's also a scene, and it's a little bit of a minor plot spoiler. If you don't want it spoiled for you, I'll put a little time code on the screen right now for you to jump ahead to. But for those of you that don't mind this minor plot spoiler, it involves one of the group stepping on a landmine, and they're trying to figure out what to do, and in that very moment, a landmine diffuser team show up to help them out, and I thought to myself, wow, that was lucky. And I did think that the third act felt a little bit disjointed comparatively to the first two, because the focus gets divided a little bit in that act and it doesn't feel as tidy. However, I'm more forgiving of that because the last 10-15 minutes of the film really packs an emotional wallop. So it's time to ask those three questions. Firstly, would I watch this again? Absolutely. This is a very effective film. It might actually be my favorite film of 2020 so far. So yeah, I'm gonna watch this again. Question number two, do I recommend it for you guys? Absolutely again. Given what's going on in the world right now, Da 5 Bloods is a must-see. It informs, it entertains, it moves, and it also inspires. Watch it, guys. And question number three, what score am I gonna give it out of 10? A few minor flaws, however, this is still an important and relevant piece of cinema which really reflects what's going on in the world right now. So I'm gonna give Da 5 Bloods a score of 9 out of 10. But as always, guys, this is just one bloke's opinion. I want to hear from you guys. Have you seen Da 5 Bloods? You should. It's an incredible film. But yeah, what did you think of it? Did you like it, dislike it, love it? How did it make you feel with what's going on in the world right now? Whatever you have to say, let your voice be heard in the comments section down below. If you guys like this video, hit that like button. If you want to follow me on social media, Twitter or Instagram, it's all in the video description down below. And of course, don't forget to click subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to stay safe while we protest for equality and an end to systemic racism. Remember, peace is love. For more things related to movies, TV, and popcorn culture, I'm Luke Airfield, and I'll see you guys next time.